the Prime Minister of this country was missing in action when the opposition was speaking in Parliament. I mean, what was the Prime Minister of this country trying to convey through his conspicuous absence? That he has no respect and regard for the opposition's voice, which means for the people who have voted for around 240 MPs in Parliament. Worse, I think, Neelu, it is a manifestation of the very fact that the Prime Minister has no respect for the Constitution. The Saffron Party has nothing to do with India's freedom struggle. As we all know, the RSS did not even play the national tricolors. The Tiranga was not even in their compound in Nagpur for 50 years. So what are we talking about? We are talking about a party that gives lip service to the Constitution. And it's important to highlight this. Remember, Neelu, that several leaders from this party have rubbished the word secular. Let me tell you, the BJP lecturing or giving sermons to the people of India or the opposition on the Constitution, and I tweeted about it, is like the hyena, which is basically a scavenger, is like the hyena basically advocating the use of buttermilk and chas and lassi. I mean, it's really a joke, I'm telling you. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, don't carry your hypocrisy to this level, BJP. Here is Nirmala Sitharaman, India's finance minister, under whose nose SEBI has chosen to become, literally like a paper tiger. It's not even a paper tiger, it's a paper mouse. It hasn't done anything on Gautam Adani's group at all. Number two, all these Hindenburg report allegations, stock market manipulation, accounting fraud, money in tax havens, right? All these happened under the watch of the finance ministry. The Gautam Adani scam has happened under the finance ministry, reporting to Nirmala Sitharaman. I would have liked Rahul Gandhi actually to hold a press conference yesterday or today and debunk Modi's speeches one after the other, even before Mr. Kharge did it. You understand what I'm saying? You need to be aggressive. You need to be out there batting day in and night out. Once people register that fake news culture, which they do, but they forget it from time to time, you got to tell them that every time BJP speaks, don't trade them at face value. That's
Absolutely.
how you.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Today, the debate on the Constitution has begun in Rajya Sabha after 2 days of discussions in Lok Sabha, and then with a final speech by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Today, the debate was initiated in Rajya Sabha by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And she, again, on the lines of Prime Minister Modi, targeted Jawaharlal Nehru. She referred to the first constitutional amendment in 1951. Then she also talked about the arrest of poet and lyricist Majrooh Sultanpuri and actor Balraj Sahni in 1949. Then similarly, she also talked about the fact that Congress government had banned a book called Nehru, a political biography by Michael Edwards, and a film called Kissa Kursi. This was in 1975. And she also lashed out on socialism as well. But the manner in which the BJP speakers are talking about Constitution, targeting Congress, and saying that everything what Congress has done is absolutely unconstitutional, and therefore BJP is the biggest protector of the Constitution, is the message they've been trying to send out. But how does one make out of these debates which are happening in Lok Sabha, and now today the way it has started in Rajya Sabha? What would you really say to a debate like this? Joining me now is author, political commentator, and former Congress spokesperson Sanjay Jha this evening with us. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. It's wonderful always to have you on the program. And 2 days of the fireworks which we saw in Lok Sabha. And today the debate began with Nirmala Sitharaman's speech. And she spoke for about like 1.5 hours or something. And then Kharge ji gave a point by point rebuttal of Nirmala's speech as well as Prime Minister Modi's speech. I think his speech was very, very mature and he touched upon a lot of issues. But what would you really say to the manner in which, and the style in which the BJP speakers are talking about the Constitution?
Well, a couple of points to begin with, Neelu. Number one, this is a serious debate. We are talking about the Constitution of India, which is a foundation for our democracy, which is a foundation of our entire structure of governance, right? Basically, the Constitution tells you the guidelines on which a country can be managed and run. Can you imagine on such a serious debate, the Prime Minister of this country was missing in action when the opposition was speaking in Parliament? I mean, what was the Prime Minister of this country trying to convey through his conspicuous absence? That he has no respect and regard for the opposition's voice, which means for the people who have voted for around 240 MPs in Parliament? Worse, I think, Neelu, it is a manifestation of the very fact that the Prime Minister has no respect for the Constitution. I don't think the BJP should even try and defend it. I, for the life of me, cannot imagine that there is a discussion happening on the Constitution and its 75th year. The opposition is raising several points and the Prime Minister is nowhere to be seen. I think this is the first and the fundamental point of our conversation today. The disregard, the disrespect.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. You're talking about the disregard and the disrespect of the BJP opposition, making a couple of points where Prime Minister Modi is just absent from the house. But, looking at the gravity of the moment, 75 years to the Indian Constitution, the entire globe is watching this event, that there is a 4 days discussion happening on 75 years of the Indian Constitution. But within the house, what is it we are seeing? We are seeing Nehru bashing. We are seeing Indira Gandhi bashing. We are seeing Rajiv Gandhi being bashed. Is this the level of debate which BJP is indulging into? Not a single word of praise for Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and not even a single word about the contribution he's made, but everything has been wrong about what Nehru, Indira and Rajiv Gandhi have done.
But Neelu, frankly speaking, I don't think Pandit Nehru in heaven even cares for what Narendra Modi and his contemporaries say about him, because what is the truth, Neelu? Let's think about it. What is the truth, right? The BJP or the Janasangh is a creation of the Hindu Mahasabha, the RSS, etc. The RSS is the parent body of the Sangh Parivar. Did they have any role to play in the freedom struggle and India's independence? The answer is zero. Zero. Now, you're expecting a political outfit whose mentors were siding with the British during the time of the freedom struggle. You're expecting them to today praise those who were the architects of the founders of Indian Constitution. And, you have to go back to what Golwalkar said about Indian Constitution. There is the other famous interview of K.S. Sudarshan, which he gave to, I think, Karan Thapar, where he said that the Indian Constitution does not represent the ethos of India. Golwalkar said the same thing. So we have to understand that Mr. Modi's party does not actually believe in the Constitution at all, because their mentors told them that the Indian Constitution does not represent our philosophy. I think Rahul Gandhi correctly pointed out the same thing said by Vinay.
Is it because that BJP doesn't believe in the Constitution at all is the reason why they are crying from their rooftop that, look, we are the biggest protectors of the Constitution? I think this is the big to be exposed a little.
Yeah, I can tell you, Neelu, it stands exposed because this is a political party that through providential circumstances has come to power. Now, we all know that Donald Trump has won again. I mean, he's made an extraordinary comeback. 34 felony charges, several bankruptcies, convictions, sexual molestation charges, and as the Vanity Fair cover said, 4 more years. In politics, who wins doesn't mean that your morality or your past misdemeanors have been given a green chit. The truth is that the Saffron Party has nothing to do with India's freedom struggle. As we all know, the RSS did not even play the national tricolors. The Tiranga was not even in their compound in Nagpur for 50 years. So, what are we talking about? We are talking about a party that gives lip service to the constitution. And it's important to highlight this. Remember, Neelu, that several leaders from this party have rubbished the word secular. They tell you that secular was introduced by Mrs. Gandhi during the time of the emergency, and it was not originally in the constitution. And I'll tell you why they're wrong. Because at the very beginning, the founders believed that secularism was inherent or intrinsic to our social fabric and did not need to be articulated in specific terms. But by the time Mrs. Gandhi was in power, India had seen communal disturbances and riots. And she felt it was important to incorporate secularism so that it was a constant reminder to all political parties and the people of India that we had to live by a certain syncretic character or culture. Now, you mentioned at the very beginning that Nirmala Sitharaman has an angst about the word socialism. I can understand her problem because her finance ministry, her government under Mr. Modi, and the SEBI is busy trying to protect Gautam Adani for the last several months. Gautam Adani represents the rogue face of free market capitalism. And because of the fact that she and the entire right-wing ecosystem believes that the word socialism reminds them of leftists, it reminds them of communism. You see, they don't understand the distinction between socialism, communism, and left politics. You see, for them, because they're intellectually, in my opinion, rather famished, they do not have an ability to comprehend the subtle nuances of these terms. So they even wanted to remove the word socialism from the preamble. Now, unfortunately for them, the Supreme Court, in one of its, I would say, rare judgments that I think echoed across the country, actually said that you cannot afford to remove the word secular or socialism from the preamble because they are part of the intrinsic and the very core character of this country. Okay, and that cannot be challenged. They treated it as a frivolous petition. So now the BJP and its ilk have no choices. They have to accept that we are a secular socialist country. And you see, this is a party that has never been high on what I call as a conceptual understanding of Indian history or Indian preamble to the constitution or the constitution itself. They don't understand that just because you're socialist doesn't mean that you can't have a free market system that coexists with welfare, with subsidies, with policies of creating a more equity or equality driven society. For them, it has to be free markets. You remember when Narendra Modi came, what did he say? Maximum governance, minimum government. In his case, you have seen is ended up being maximum government and minimum governance. So it's easy to make slogans, very difficult to fulfill it. And I think the answers given by Priyanka Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, and by Mr. Kharge, etc., basically points out that the BJP is living in the past. I hope the viewers of your program, and I hope the young viewers of your program, question a party that always takes you back to the past. And remember this, Neelu, that those who control there's a very famous saying, those who control the past control the present. And those who control the present control the future. So there is a very devious, diabolical politics behind erasing history, changing the roads and the bridges and the cities' names, suddenly bringing up Tipu Sultan, Aurangzeb, and the Mughal period, right? This calling for letters, changing the name of the Nehru museum and the library. This is all a very calibrated and extremely well constructed fascist mindset. What is the attempt? Think about how BJP feels today. Mr. Modi and the BJP know that they are loved by 37% of the people of India, but they know they had no role to play in India's independence. I sometimes wonder how Mr. Modi feels when he goes and gives his Independence Day speech from the Red Fort, because his mentors, his gurus, his philosophers, his ideological bosses had nothing to do with the freedom struggle. I mean, that is the hard truth. This is not some kind of I'm not indulging in hyperbole. This is a known fact. It's documented in history. So I think the debate in the Constitution today is now basically exposed them in terms of not just the past, but the fact that going forward, they have nothing to offer. And when you look at the way they have treated farmers, the way their women have been brutalized in this country, the way the institutions have been made into a mammoth joke, the way they are exploited like pawns on a chessboard, made to move at the convenience of the big boss, I think we have made our democracy into a laughing stock. And look at the way, questions have been raised on India's credibility by Canada, by the United States of America. And I read recently that they were even trying to remove the memory of the famous 1971 surrender by the Pakistani forces in Dhaka, because they don't want to even keep the memory of Mrs. Gandhi's extraordinary triumph. So this is a party that is so insecure, ignorant, and at the same time very dangerous, because they don't want the young people of India to know their past. So it's what I call as using the saffron paintbrush to create a new canvas where every other color of this country is submerged into what we call as the Geruva color. Not right. It does injustice to our country.
Absolutely. But Sanjay, talking about the politics, the 2 days of Lok Sabha debate, and then, today the Rajya Sabha debate has begun. Prime Minister is again going to reply, I think, tomorrow. But, everybody is talking about the fact in the political corridors of Parliament. If you talk about this particular debate with the people, they will say the entire effort of the BJP was focused on isolating Congress from the India alliance. This is what they thought, that they will use this opportunity to isolate Congress from entirely the India bloc. But what it has resulted is a greater unity within the India bloc. Now, if you look at the other party leaders, how they've spoken on the constitution, it looks like a grand unity of the India alliance. So was this some kind of a design which BJP thought could have used to its advantage, but ultimately now it has failed?
Well, Neelu, let me tell you, the BJP lecturing or giving sermons to the people of India or the opposition on the constitution, and I tweeted about it, is like the hyena, which is basically a scavenger, is like the hyena basically advocating the use of buttermilk and chas and lassi. I mean, it's really a joke, I'm telling you. I mean, for God's sake, don't carry your hypocrisy to this level, BJP. I mean, you see, this is what happens to parties when they are completely drunk or intoxicated in power. They have won 2 elections recently against odds, and therefore they believe the people of this country 100% endorse everything they do. And they should ask the young people who are out of jobs as to what they feel about it. The farmers are already protesting, by the way. We know that. So the bottom line is this, Neelu, that when you hear the opposition speakers, they have actually used this forum to highlight what is seriously wrong with our country, and nothing is changing. It's getting progressively worse. Mahua was also equally, blunt when she talked about how the former Chief Justice of India of the Supreme Court made a certain comment or observation on the Places of Worship Act, and that opened floodgates to all kind of attempts by these saffron supporting units to create further, tensions in our society. It's a reality. And by the way, the government of this country, Mr. Modi's government, is apparently going to file an affidavit to say why the Places of Worship Act needs to be challenged, right? And that act, by the way, is considered to be the basic structure of the Constitution. So I want to bring this point again on your program, that here is a party that is challenging through an affidavit in the Supreme Court of what is incorporated by the Supreme Court as a basic structure of the Constitution. if you need any further evidence of BJP's duplicitous politics, here you have it. And I would like to give you one more example. There are hundreds of them. There are hundreds of them. But here is another. The electoral bonds. In my opinion, one of the biggest financial scams this country has seen, where the government acted like a mafia. It was in the, I'm putting a gun on your head, extortion, or you pay me a bribe and take a contract. The Supreme Court had to call it unconstitutional. I think, I have to give it to the BJP though. Here is Nirmala Sitharaman, India's finance minister, under whose nose SEBI has chosen to become, literally like a paper tiger. It's not even a paper tiger, it's a paper mouse. It hasn't done anything on Gautam Adani's group at all. Number two, all these Hindenburg report allegations, stock market manipulation, accounting fraud, money in tax havens, right? All these happened under the watch of the finance ministry. The Gautam Adani scam has happened under the finance ministry, reporting to Nirmala Sitharaman. Electoral bonds, by the way, raising monies, is happened under the watch of Nirmala Sitharaman. The finance minister has no intention to resign. But she and the others will remind you of Nehru. I mean, they will probably go back 1,000 years if you give them a little more time. But this is what happens when you have a party which is mentally bankrupt, morally compromised, and I think intellectually so enfeebled that all it can do is to blame the Congress. I mean, I heard Narendra Modi's speech briefly in clips. I find watching Mr. Modi's speech over 5 minutes an intolerable experience. And
by the way, it was almost a 2-hour speech. 2 hour speech.
Yeah, exactly. And I have in fact tweeted about today why I think he's an absolutely subpar orator. I've mentioned that in great detail. And can you imagine he's replying to an opposition debate when he was not even in parliament? So is the prime minister telling the people of this country that I will listen to the opposition, what they said in parliament on TV, and then I'll reply to you? Ridiculous.
But Sanjay, at the end of these 4 days, today and tomorrow, Rajya Sabha debate will get over tomorrow. But what is BJP trying to achieve through this debate? At the behest of the opposition, they got ready to have a debate on the constitution. But if they were trying to get political mileage out of this incident, so at the end of 4 days, what do you think will BJP have achieved? Is it going to give all the supplies to the troll army and WhatsApp University after this, that look, this is what Modi had to say, this is what Nirmala had to say, this is what Anurag Thakur had to say? So all these trollers of the right wing, they will get lots of stuff, to use it further. So what is BJP actually achieving at the end of the day? Nehru bashing is not new with BJP. Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi bashing is also not new with them. About how Congress has been on emergency, that also has not been new. So if they are using this moment on the occasion of the glorious 75 years of the Indian Constitution, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for BJP? What are they telling the future generations and the present generations of the country?
My advice to everyone who is watching your program, Neelu, particularly the young, will be please do not believe in the WhatsApp University, in which the BJP is today made India into a misinformation and a disinformation capital of the world. And Neelu is serious business. You see, fake news is the biggest danger to democracies worldwide, because individuals get completely brainwashed because they get sustained negative news and they begin to believe it. But here is my answer to your question. The BJP is actually very thrilled because they believe that Mr. Modi, when he speaks, he gets 2 hours of television time for free. In any case, he literally owns all the TV channels because they dance in the tune. The second point is that if you notice the headlines the next day, whatever Mr. Modi says, all the newspapers will reproduce it verbatim. Modi blasts Rahul Gandhi, Congress, accuses Nehru and Rajiv Gandhi. I mean, these are headlines that in a normal democracy, people don't carry. Please remember that, Neelu. I'm telling you this because end of day, I read a lot of what's going on abroad, and I have traveled quite a bit. Donald Trump may be the next president of the United States. A New York Times will not put him on a cover story unless he says something which is of very critical significance. In India, we are so obedient or subservient or almost down on our knees when it comes to the leaders that we literally don't even question the veracity of what they say. So if you take all the newspapers in India, all of them, from the most venerable to the most disreputed, they will carry Modi's speeches as he spoke in parliament. No questions asked. So you see what happens to the common people is they hear Modi for X number of hours on TV. Then all these anchors will make a big hullabaloo about it. And then the next day they find all the headlines without any edits are Narendra Modi's quotes. That's what the BJP likes. Because that's where they say, now whatever Mr. Modi says, and he will say, we defended the constitution. They will remind you of the emergency, 1975. We are reaching 50 years, my dear friends. And can you talk about the unofficial emergency in India for the last 121 months? Stealthy and dangerous as hell. But they won't. No media will say that at all, right? So Mr. Modi gets free television time. He gets free headlines in newspapers. And you're absolutely right. The trollers take over. What do the trollers do? Have you seen what they're doing? They take clips. They'll misrepresent something said on Himachal by Priyanka Gandhi. They will make Rahul Gandhi look bad by taking a clip and, showing him as if he's clumsy or, not speaking according to script. They have lied about the role of Sardar Patel. It's, anyone who studies history will go rolling on the floor laughing. But here is the point. The BJP knows that 90% of the people in our country won't have the time to go back to the history books. How many of us truly read patiently the truth or the wheat from the chaff? And that is what they exploit. So the bottom line, Neelu, for the future of our country is that people like you and several other people on YouTube, and I know on social media, there are very good people on social media who fight back these trollers. They need to be constantly feeding back that information. You see, the mistake that the opposition makes is how do you fight misinformation and disinformation? Is that you put more communication out, put the truth out, fight it tooth and nail, because that's the only medium you have. Big media or legacy media is going to ditch you. So you need to be more aggressive, hold more press conferences, debunk. I would have liked Rahul Gandhi actually to hold a press conference yesterday or today and debunk Modi's speeches one after the other, even before Mr. Kharge did it. You understand what I'm saying? You need to be aggressive. You need to be out there batting day in and night out. Once people register that fake news culture, which they do, but they forget it from time to time, you got to tell them that every time BJP speaks, don't trade them at face value. That's
Absolutely.
how you.
Yeah. So one last question, Sanjay, and then I'll wind up the interview. That after these 4 days, people, during the debate also, we saw Rahul Gandhi make a comparison. In one hand, he had the booklet of the Constitution, and the other hand, he had the Manusmriti, which he explained what the supreme leader of the RSS had to say on the Constitution. But now my question to, and the final question to you is, what do you think is the future of Constitution during the BJP's regime? BJP is going to continue. I'm assuming they will continue for another 4 years, 4.5 years. But what is going to be the future of the Constitution? Is it going to be just there as a booklet with no value? Or do you think that Modi will really succeed in replacing that book with another model of Samvidhan or a Gujarat model of Samvidhan?
Well, I can tell you there will be a pushback. I don't think Mr. Modi or the BJP are happy with the way things are. If they had a choice, they would put more curbs on our freedom. If they had a choice, we know that they don't really respect secularism or socialism. So in that case, they would fundamentally alter the constitution. You can see it in this one nation, one election, right? There's a fundamental attempt to try and destroy cooperative federalism in this country, take away the independence of states, or influence elections through a more national narrative. So the BJP is not comfortable with the constitution as it exists today. They will try their level best. And I don't think the opposition is wrong when they say that there is an attempt to try and amend the constitution. And the way they will do that is through creeping changes. They will never do it explicitly because it's not going to be easy for them. There is hopefully still some faith that we all have to have in the Supreme Court of India. But the opposition has a role cut out. So does civil society. So do people like you and me. So do the people who are watching your program. The governments will come and go. Political parties will come and go. Prime ministers will come and go. India is forever. And I think the moment the people of our country begin to recognize that no politician here who's trying to tell you that he's got a magic wand and he's going to fulfill all your aspirations is doing anything more than trying to basically occupy that high-powered seat. Mr. Modi's, if you read what he said to what he's done, I think they have failed in 90% of the things that they mentioned, right? It's out there in the open. I don't even have to repeat it. We can do a separate program on it. But I'm very bullish. I'm an eternal optimist, Neelu. I believe in politics. You have to have faith in the goodness of humanity. You got to believe in the goodness of people. And I'm very confident that India will fight back because India's ethos is one of inclusiveness, is one of tolerance, is one of love, is one of living together with the biradari and the bhaichara. And no Mr. Modi, no RSS, no BJP, no NDA can ever stop that.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.